Denan Kemp. We know him as the muesli bar enthusiast, the chief dribbler.
He's reached new heights now. His dick got much bigger after
and as the people's beak. Blokeinabar has become a social media juggernaut, pioneering in the rise of new media for rugby league. Once a teen sporting prodigy with offers in 3 different sporting codes and a Brisbane Bronco at just 19, when it seemed like he had the world at his feet, things changed quickly and it seemed Denan had lost it all. Here's a story of one of the great post-sporting career pivots that has altered the rugby league landscape. We start on the Gold Coast, where Kemp was an avid soccer player throughout his youth, making Queensland representative sides every year from ages 12 to 17, playing over in England and signing to Australian professional side the Queensland Raw as a teen. It was clear Kemp had potential. He was playing for the reserve squad at just 16 years of age and was guaranteed a path to the A-League the following next 2 seasons. Whilst a baller in soccer, Kemp was achieving great things in the world of athletics as well. As we know, the beak has one of the most aerodynamic faces in the game. It helped him win a state championship in the 100, 200, 400 and cross-country events. Kemp was a supreme athlete. Attending the Catholic school of St. Michael's College, sports wasn't necessarily prioritised, especially when it came to rugby league. Playing in the 2nd division of the Confraternity Cup, a rugby league tournament for Catholic schools, St. Michael's wanted Kemp to participate for the school purely because of his physical prowess. Kemp would decline as he had never played structured rugby league and still considered himself a soccer player. He would get out of the commitment by telling them he had gone away for soccer so he couldn't attend the tournament, before getting his cover blown in comical fashion.
They drive past in the bus and they look to the sidewalk, and I was with my girlfriend at the time getting ice cream, and they're like, "You fucking liar, how dare you, we wanted to get you to confraternity, you said you had to go for soccer and I'm with me missus."
After this, he felt guilty about the situation, and the following year in year 12, with both the peer pressure of his mates and the school paying for the trip fees, he decided to attend the tournament. Going purely for some fun and a week off school with his eyes set on national trials for soccer 2 weeks after the tournament, Kemp would go on a tear. Scoring a hat-trick in the first game, Kemp was approached by his coach and was asked what he thought about NRL club scouts being at the game. He was awarded the player with the most potential in the tournament, even though he was playing in the B division. Brisbane Broncos reserve grade coach at the time, Ivan Henjak, presented him with the award and would invite him to the Broncos development camp. With Kemp primarily a soccer player, with his only exposure to the sport watching the Broncos occasionally with his grandfather as a kid, he didn't understand the magnitude of the offer. After a few weeks, Kemp would tell his parents about the offer and his dad would contact the club. Getting in touch with Wayne Bennett himself, his father would advise the club that Kemp had 0 experience in rugby league, which stunned Bennett. They would fast-track Denan to the elite squad and get him on board almost immediately to teach Kemp the game. Returning from his soccer commitments, Kemp would participate in the Broncos elite camp, giving it a red-hot crack. He was offered a contract with the under-19 Broncos side and was completely unaware to how massive this opportunity was, considering he had extremely limited rugby league experience. Whilst mulling over the contract, Kemp would also receive attention from the AFL from the Brisbane Lions. His sport teacher at school had got in contact with the Lions, showing them clips of Kemp sprinting and playing soccer. The Lions were sold almost immediately and asked to meet Kemp, where he was offered a one-on-one training with the club where they would help him develop for the AFL draft and progress him into the draft system. Denan, at 17, had options. The soccer route was the safest as he was guaranteed an A-League call-up in the near future. Kemp would ultimately select rugby league though, saying the game just came naturally to him. Signing for the Broncos, arguably the biggest franchise in rugby league at the time, Kemp was naive to what he had signed himself up to. So inexperienced, only a week prior to the training with the club, he was on a field getting his brother to run at him as he learnt the basics of how to tackle. Signed as a young talent with insane raw attributes, the physicality of the sport shocked Kemp as he struggled initially. The Broncos decided to move Kemp from the under-19 to the Clydesdale training squad, the reserve grade squad for the Broncos. After just one training session, it was clear Kemp's body just wasn't built for rugby league. With no muscles in his shoulders, they were cramping severely after tackling drills, and the Broncos knew he would need to bulk up fast. He would be told at the end of the training period that the coaches didn't believe Kemp would play reserve grade that season. In defiance to criticism, Kemp would put on 10 kilograms in 3 months to increase his size and help his durability. He would prove the coaches wrong, being the only player that featured in reserve grade that season from the developmental training camp. He would actually score 7 tries in the last 7 games for the Clydesdales in his rookie year in reserve grade, catapulting him into the first grade contention. The Beak trained hard throughout 2006, down in the winger depth chart behind the likes of Darius Boyd, Carmichael Hunt and Justin Hodges. He knew it would be an uphill battle for playing time, but Denan was dominating in the reserve grade whilst training with the first grade side. Leading the Queensland Cup in tries, he was bemused when he was overlooked for selection during the Origin period. Overlooked multiple times throughout the 2006 season, with Bennett not willing to risk playing Kemp due to his limited experience. In fact, Kemp's reserve in reserve grade was being selected over Denan, as Bennett felt he was just not ready for the first grade. This was incredibly disheartening for Denan, who had a great season featuring for the under-19 Queensland Maroons. Kemp would finish the year the top try scorer in the Queensland Cup and became one of the premier players ready for first grade action. Another excellent off-season, Kemp's goal was to play first grade in 2007, pinpointing the Origin period once again as an opportunity to play first grade. This year, his wishes would come true, as Bennett would select him for round 10 of the 2007 season against the Manly Seagulls. With Manly known for their chip and chases, Kemp was ordered by Bennett to sit deeper at fullback to diffuse any of those kicks. This would prove to be a masterstroke, as Kemp would produce this moment on debut.
Going through, Kemp got to it though, now look at him go. Running back, he went past Mick Roberts, he might go all the way. What a run by Denan Kemp.
An absolutely excellent debut, a try which he capped off with 275 run metres, 6 tackle breaks and 3 line breaks. The 275 run metres was a record of any player at the time on debut. Denan would play 3 more times in 2007 as he solidified himself as a member of the squad. Kemp would sign a $50,000 extension with the Broncos, taking considerably under his market value as he was promised to start in 2008. Bennett would not select him though for round 1, but Kemp would find himself in the starting side by round 3 due to injuries. Playing in 8 of the next 9 games for the Broncos, he would score 5 tries during this period, with a special try against the Tigers showcasing his soccer background.
Doing lockdown, cut out ball again, it's on the deck. Denan Kemp, a soccer player.
As a kid with a soccer background myself, I remember watching this try thinking it was insane. By round 11, Kemp was told by the Broncos that he was remaining as the 3rd string winger, behind both Darius Boyd and Steve Michaels once the squad was back to full health. Considering Kemp had already been playing well and already taken a pay cut, he decided to look for opportunities elsewhere, giving the New Zealand Warriors a verbal agreement that he would sign with the club for the 2009 season. Little did Denan Kemp know that he was about to have the biggest game of his career with the Broncos the following week. In what was a nail-biter, Kemp had already scored 3 tries before providing this memorable moment on the buzzer.
Ag throws it back, Lockyer runs away, game's still on, puts a kick over, here's Denan Kemp, Kemp down the sideline, Denan Kemp!
This performance was the catalyst to an excellent second half of the year, where he became the starting winger and saw his contract value skyrocket. Kemp tied the record for the most tries in a game for a Bronco and would have finished the 2008 season 2nd in try scoring. His play had put him in state of origin contention for the Queensland Maroons as well during that season. After succumbing to the Storm in the semi-final, Kemp's management were flooded with contract offers worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, more than what he had verbally agreed to with the Warriors. Although not moral, he had the option to backtrack on the Warriors, now even being offered a starting role at the Broncos, but he decided to stick to his word and move to New Zealand. Where Kemp's naivety helped him make it at the Broncos, his decision to jump ship to the Warriors was definitely premature. Although actually only earning $90,000 a season, news reports had him earning around $400,000 a year, which meant he had pressure on him to perform for his new club. He started strongly, slotting in a game-winning conversion from the sideline in round 2, but really struggled for the rest of his time in New Zealand. He struggled acclimatising to a new country with the continual cold and rainy weather, causing him to feel homesick. He was having off-field issues with his partner at the time, and the Warriors were not prioritising his wing in attack, with the ball directed to the wing of Manu Vatuvei instead. Denan, with his limited league knowledge, was unaware of the various other stories of Australian players struggling to perform in New Zealand, and really had to experience it firsthand. He would return to the Broncos in 2010 after being released from his final year of his contract with the Warriors. He would receive the starting role in round 1 and would have an excellent comeback game, scoring the game winner. Kemp would say round 1 of 2010 is his favourite game after returning from the adversity of the year prior.
He's away from Tonga. Here goes Kemp for the corner. Denan Kemp has scored for Brisbane.
Kemp's delight was short-lived though, as he would suffer a horrific injury that broke 6 of his ribs and collapsed his lung. Kemp would try to rush back from the injury 5 weeks later, but again would re-injure it and would not appear again for the remainder of the 2010 season. This injury really marked the beginning of the end for Denan's career. Fully fit and ready for selection for the 2011 season, head coach Ivan Henjak would be sacked and replaced by Anthony Griffin, who told Kemp his services were no longer needed. Kemp would be demoted to reserve grade and decided to leave the sport entirely for rugby sevens. His stint in the sport was short-lived as he returned ultimately back to the NRL with stints with the Dragons and Broncos, where he was unable to return to first grade. The final straw was when Kemp had fought his way back into the first grade side and was selected for the first time in over 1,000 days. He would tell all his family and friends to come to the game, only for Anthony Griffin to inform him that he had been cut from the final lineup. This decision would mark his official retirement from rugby league at the age of 27. Once with the world at his feet, being courted by 3 sporting codes at 17 to now retired only a decade later, Kemp would reveal his mental health was almost beyond repair, struggling to get out of bed most mornings. At this point, he had no savings and no prior qualifications. Kempy was lost. For Kemp, being an athlete was who he was, and he felt like he had never gotten a proper shot at returning at the NRL level, and it seemed nothing fell in his favour after that debut season. Searching for purpose post-career, Kemp would move to Wollongong, taking an electrical apprenticeship in conjunction with playing local footy in the area. Kemp, although content with the electrical apprenticeship, knew he wanted more from life. With initial thoughts of starting a video game show while still playing footy, Denan would eventually stumble over the Joe Rogan podcast in 2012. The godfather of the podcast scene, Denan became enamoured by the online podcast format. Spending long days in the underground mines as an electrician, Kemp spent hours listening to podcasts which inspired him to make his own. He felt there was a gap in the market when it came to rugby league media online. The mainstream media had all the power. They created their own narratives, and Kemp felt the players needed a platform to be seen as people. With a pack-up studio, Kemp would hire a hotel room, and this is where in 2015 the Locker Room was born.
Locker room talk, baby.
The Locker Room kicked off with episode 1 with Bo Ryan. The names continued to grow in stature as Kemp had the likes of Paul Gallen, Mitchell Pearce and other NRL stars in his first year. Kemp's first big break financially would be his sponsorship with Moneyball, a fantasy league company. This meant he could make the podcasting his full-time income. And although he was advised not to, he walked away from his apprenticeship with only a year left to fully pursue the business. From here, he added combat sports stars like George Kambosis, Alex Volkanovski and Dan Hooker to the podcast. He would sign with sponsors as the podcast progressed, but they were not reliable and often bailed. He knew he wanted to promote something of his own through the podcast. The Blokeinabar beer was then developed, and Denan promoted it through the podcast and his social medias. He would release the Blokeinabar lager in 2017 with success for a period of 3 months before putting everything on hold. His brother, who was running a Spanish tapas bar on the Gold Coast, was in desperate financial need as the business was struggling. Kemp decided to try and turn his brother's business around, transforming the tapas bar into the Blokeinabar bar. Due to a lack of capital, he would have to halt the distribution of his beer in stores and just run the bar. His commitment to the bar meant he was unable to consistently upload podcasts, and the process of trying to turn the bar around had become a serious financial burden, so much so Kemp would have to move back into his parents' home on the Gold Coast. It was here when Denan's family and friends hinted at maybe a career switch and trying something else. He knew though, with the right backing, his combination of his own beer and marketing it through the podcast was a winning idea. He was offered a lifeline though by an investor who saw Denan's vision and bought part of the Bloke brand. With Denan's ingenuity and financial backing now, it was here where Blokeinabar formed to what we really know it is today. By March of 2018, the Locker Room's Facebook page had amassed 50,000 followers. By mid-June of 2019, they had hit 30,000 Instagram followers. It was 2020 though, when the Bloke empire really blew up. With the relaunch of Bloke beer in March of 2020, which went berserk, selling 750,000 cans in 6 months, Bloke would hit 100,000 followers on Instagram, and the podcast had totaled 150,000 downloads by the end of 2020. A rebrand of the YouTube channel continued its formula of NRL stars on the show, but also implemented weekly talk shows with other content creators like the Hello Sports Boys and retired legend Cameron Smith. Kemp would create his own merch under the Bloke brand, which is highly popular amongst rugby league fans. The Blokeinabar Instagram now sits at 207,000 followers, the most successful independently run rugby league oriented account. Bloke Beer now sits in over 700 stores across Australia, as Kemp has used the leverage of his brand to market his products perfectly. Blokeinabar has become an online media giant and is the pioneer of independent rugby league online content, which gave the rugby league community unprecedented access to their favourite players, which has changed the landscape forever. The post-career transition of Denan Kemp from early retirement to Bloke founder is truly remarkable. If you enjoyed this look at Denan Kemp and Blokeinabar, like this video. If you want more Aussie sporting content, subscribe and comment down below any recommendations for future videos. Till next time, thank you for watching.